happy Saturday, everyone. We are already on the third episode of the month, which is things that only Beer League Goalie would appreciate. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Felix. I'm also known as the Asian Goalie. I stream 3 to 4 times a week here in the Twitch channel. Two signature stream that I have currently is the Fun Fact Thursday. I will be sharing some fun facts that you might or might not know, and we'll have some fun. I'll play a game and we'll review some facts together. And of course, today, right now, you're watching the Asian Goalie Show, where I will be inviting guests to talk about anything about beer league hockey, and we have a theme every month. When it comes to this theme, it's always remind me of those lonely moments, right? The first one on the ice, the only person in the team who put on pads. Like, there isn't really anywhere to connect with someone who understands this position, like what we go through, and being that lone person in the team. Like, you feel like you're part of the team, but hey, there's not much people to talk about. So that's really the reason why one of the reasons why I started the Asian Goalie Show, is to connect with more fellow beer league goalies out there. And you know what? I do find now I'm a mission to really spread a lot more of our mindset, a lot of our thinking of why we're just so obsessed in this position and how that impact our lives. And speaking of mindset, that is actually one of the things that was brought up multiple times for the past episodes that I have. Different goalies are talking about how mindset is just so much more important than techniques. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to go deep onto the mindset, into the mind. So as you can see in the topic today, it's all about mental health. And we got a very special guest today. I really appreciate him because he shared a lot of a very dark story that he has before, and how he picked himself up, and now how goalie position has changed his whole life. His name is Des, and I'll invite him in just a bit. But just to remind everybody, this is an Ask Me Anything environment. So if you have any questions, any comments, especially on the mental health side of things, like if you just want to make comments, questions, like just feel free to put into the chat so we all can participate in this conversation. So without further ado, I'll invite Des in here. Des, are you with us?
I am here. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you here, Des. Thanks for volunteering. Like, you're just so open about sharing your story, and I really, really appreciate that you joined the show. And
yeah,
I hope you're as excited as I am.
Absolutely.
So I'm gonna change this show a little bit to begin with. Like, usually I ask about like what's your background and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna change it a little bit. Since today we talk about mental health, I want to ask this really open-ended question, and you can answer any way that you want to do. Okay. What does mental health mean to you?
Mental health in itself is a very complex situation. To me, it's the well-being of myself and my mental capabilities and capacity to be able to be okay. Mm-hmm. You know, some people have to be on medications for their mental health. People have been through a lot of bad stuff, or it's just stuff that you're born with. And it's, challenging, and doesn't matter if it's a small form of mental health all the way up to the most extremes. To me, it's very important, So yeah. That's kind of where it is with me.
Got it. So when it comes to the importance of mental health, I think that's where we can start pivoting to kind of a little bit of your stories. If you don't mind, can you share a little bit of who you were before you play goalie and now? Like, how is that comparison that you have there?
Well, kind of starting off, grew up, had a good life, had abusive stepdad kind of thing. Went through life, and then kind of as I was growing up, I played a lot of sports through high school. Parents moved around a lot, and I was moving back and forth between a bunch of places. But I had a pretty solid, healthy life. And then a few instances that happened caused me to kind of go into a downward spiral And I was pursuing my life in music. I played, ever since I was in high school, touring around the world, getting, opportunities to play with bands that I've, grew up listening to that were my idols. And then with that kind of lifestyle, the rock and roll lifestyle, you kind of delve into the drug phase, and that kind of continued. And addiction is, part of mental health. It's one of those things where it's kind of took control of my life. And over the time, it was got to the point where I was, losing jobs, doing all this, not making it to work, making up excuses, going through all these different things led me to be, out in the streets and dealing with all that kind of stuff. You have some family that, doesn't always, support you, or they don't understand what's going on. And then when you are trying to better yourself, it's always kind of like a wishy-washy kind of thing with everybody, because, addiction and all that kind of stuff it's never good. So going through all that kind of stuff, being on the streets, not having anybody to turn to, you kind of go through these really, really dark phases. Like, you see a lot of things that nobody really ever sees, like what happens, like I was explaining to you, like after like 3 a.m., what goes on, like having to stay up for days just to keep myself safe. People, you get around the wrong, people, they follow you. I had my, phone stolen all the time. They would be, people can track, if they steal your phone, they can go through your Google account. And I mean, it's terrifying stuff. So dealing with all that, it created this PTSD that I have. And PTSD is it's a hard thing to, manage sometimes, because you never know when those triggers are going to come in.
Yeah.
But I decided, I was, still doing music, doing that kind of stuff. And then I got myself clean, got myself sober. And then I was still moving around, kind of trying to find a home. And then I moved to Ohio, and good friend of mine invited me, so I could stay there. And then his brother, who I've known for a long time, I actually was in a band with, the other brother back in the day. So music kind of brought it back in, and started working with him and met my fiance. So things were starting to build up, but it's like I still was having this conflict, that was going on inside me. Like, I've gone, different therapy stuff, going through all, seeing psychiatrists for like things when I was out in Phoenix. But all of a sudden, coming into like the ice hockey thing, it's something I did when I was younger, playing as a goalie, and like when you're younger, it's, it's fun. You're doing it there. You're competitive. You're doing all this stuff. And I didn't even realize that Ohio at the time had like hockey in general. Like, you go out somewhere and say, hey, there's hockey. A friend of mine invited me to go ice skating, and pulled up, and there was a sign that said, open skate from 9 to 11. And so went out there, bought some old pads, stuff that I was used to, and I started working on it. But it was kind of learning how to have to redo all that kind of stuff. Because my style of goaltending 20 years ago is definitely not how they do it nowadays. So it's more of a, we were talking about the butterfly, and I used to be a stand-up goalie, standing up, making a big brick wall, and then,
Yeah.
But excuse me. But having all that kind of stuff, and it was just like I had to relearn how to like basically skate. I had to relearn how to do all this other stuff, and then I got on a team, and then learned to have keep going. And it's like these goals are getting let in. I'm getting frustrated, and I was making me nervous, because with like the whole like mental health side to it, like dealing with stuff like any kind of aggression was kind of overly like overwhelming. And then you have this thought in your head, like, I don't think I'm good enough. And then it's like, almost like, for me, it was almost like an embarrassment, like if a goal went. So I'd get frustrated and get upset. But the more and more I was, the more and more, like the first season I played, I was, developing and getting better. And then I was starting to realize that, like, okay, I can do this. And then our team last season won the championships, the division champions, and they moved us up. And we're getting our butts handed to us now because it's like we're lower, going up. But I was sitting there thinking about it, and it's like the way I perceived things before I started hockey, it's like I can't control these situations.
Right.
The stuff that goes on in your life, like we can't always control what happens to us, and how we deal with them is basically what we need to do, and finding better outlets and stuff. So instead of smashing my, stick on the ice and, cussing up a storm, it's more on the lines now. It's like, there's nothing I can do about it. At this point, the goal went in, the puck went in, there's nothing I can do about it. We can't challenge it, So so I had to learn to like overcome those thoughts and that process. And that to me is how I associated that with like the beginning of healing with a lot of the stuff that I was going through, because there's stuff that like, because it's happened, it already happened. But the trauma's still there, because like even in the games, it's like you let in a goal, you let in this, you lose the game, it kind of falls back on us, because we are that last line of defense. So so I'm associating with those two things where it's like, hey, my life here is no longer anymore. So I can only stop, or whatever goal went in, can only control that moment. I can only prepare for the future and keep moving on. And so that's kind of where I stand with all that.
Nice. Do you recall any special moment or turning point when you have those realizations? Like, was there because of a game, or was there a specific person, specific moments? What are some of the turning point moments that you have?
It was actually it was one of the because my fiance, she comes to games a little bit. Like at the beginning, she'd come to like one or two, and then she had her whole thing going on. But then all of a sudden, it's like she was coming, and it's like these games were more, they're getting better and better and better. And then I realized that like, because with there's different levels of PTSD, people have different things. So all of a sudden I just started realizing that like my home life is getting better. Like my personally, like, the way it, like things happen and how I react to things, and like, it was one, I can't remember exactly which game it was, but I always keep looking back to, we have two places where we play, and one's like a small kind of like hometown kind of rink. And that's where I started my open hockey. And that was kind of like the pinnacle where everything kind of started clicking with me, where it was like, this is what's been helping me out. Like I had, doing everything from getting, have a nice job and doing all that kind of stuff. But like, this is a thing that's actually helping me to be able to overcome a lot of these things.
That's really interesting perspective, because the way if I were to kind of use my own words to kind of rephrase what you said there, I think it's how, like, that's what I think in sports in general. It's, when you're always doing a job, let's say you're in a day job, let's say you're studying in a college, all you see is just that for the longest time. And when you have that different moments when you can just do something entirely different, it all of a sudden you give your mind a little bit of a different thing to think about. You're like, oh hey, like I did not know that. Like it's almost your brain doesn't understand the fact that, hey, your life is not just this. There's so many different things you get involved in. And I think what's so special about goalie or ice hockey to me, it's like you said, it's a very special place that you go. You won't go there normally. Like you won't go to an ice rink and just like hang out with people. But I will only go there when I play. And it's just that special moment when you go to the rink, you just start to get excited. Your mind know that something great is gonna happen, something I need to focus on something else. Like all of a sudden, all the stress that I had with work, with all this stuff, it's just disappeared.
Goes away. Yeah.
It just goes away. Yeah, and it's just so special about it. It's very different than any other sports I play. I feel it's because it does take time for us to pack things up.
Right.
And then you go there and then you get changed like 20-30 minutes. Like if you're a beginner, probably 30-40 minutes. Right?
I like to take my time, so I give myself 40 minutes.
Yeah, and then someone like to like drink a beer before the game, right? Like it takes a transition for anyone to go into the ice and do this. And when you're so into this, it just gives you like a break in your mind. If that makes sense. And I think it's just that helps a lot on kind of helping the mind a lot.
Yeah, see, for me, like it's like I'm ADHD, so it's like squirrel. Like my mind focuses so many different places a lot of times, and I'm always constantly receiving information. It's getting stored somewhere in this head. But it's like, but playing hockey, like as a goalie, you have to focus the entire time. And so it's like you have this everything else that goes on in the world that's out there is gone. You know, it's gone. Like everything is done. There's, you know, whatever happened, if there was an argument or if you had a bad day at work, once you hit that ice, you are not focused on that. You're focused, there, So yeah, pretty much the same.
Do you have any like special moments on the ice that you remember that you're like, oh, I would never forgot this moment that I had? And it could be something that you feel very like excited about, or is it something that you're like, I can't forget about it?
Well, on a funny side, the first time I hit the ice, I fell. So I always remember that. So like every time I go out onto the ice now, I hold onto the sides coming through the doors, and it's just one of the things. But like one of the things that I think was cool is I got to do my first, like I'm a year in and I'm still learning a lot of stuff because we don't have like trainers for goalies. All I have is basically YouTube. Yeah. And just the past couple of games, I was actually successfully able to butterfly side, and I was able to catch a puck even though I was sliding. I still haven't figured out how to quite stop myself from continuing to go. I'm getting there, but I was able to catch it, and I got myself a nice little windmill. Nice. So that was very special to me because it's like something I've been trying, working on. And I'm 38, and I'm not getting any younger, and it's kind of cool to kind of do something that everybody else is doing.
Yeah, kudos to you. I mean, to a lot of goalies who started late, like I would never say it's never too late. I thought I was too late already when I started at 24. I was like, oh yeah, nobody's gonna want me. I don't know how people think about me. But then like now I realize it's like I am just so young in compared to a lot of like beer league goalies out there, and I still have a lot to offer. I still have so much energy, and I don't want to waste it. I really like, even though right now with the lockdown, everything happened, I can't really do anything about it. I'm like, why don't we just start a project and talk about beer league goalies? Like, it probably just take a little bit effort for me to get people in, but the impact I'm giving may be pretty significant.
Yeah, because I mean, you never know who you're going to reach. You never know who's going to be out there who's like, hey, I'm in the same kind of position. It's like I'm not able to play hockey, but I want to talk hockey. And so you're giving us goalies a platform to be able to all come on and chat. Like I've seen other goalies like where they they have like they talk to people and they whatever, but you're actually giving a forum to people on specific stuff, and even just being completely like open to like ideas and stuff. And I think that's absolutely amazing.
Hey, I appreciate it. I will definitely continue to build that up, and a lot of these feedback helps me a lot to really like for me to involve in more community, is to really see what do goalies really need, what do beer league goalies really need. That's really my main kind of force, like of continue doing what I'm doing. So going back to, I think at this point with what you have shared so far, one of the very unique about you that I think compared to other goalies that I speak with is you have that unique motivation and confidence in you now, knowing who you were and now who you are. Where do you think the goalie position give you that motivation or give you that confidence in yourself?
I think it's the fact that I had to push myself to do it. Like when me and a friend of mine were talking about it, because he played hockey, you know, when he was growing up playing roller and all that stuff, and it was kind of like, yeah, this sounds fun. Was kind of in the back of my head, and then he kind of started pushing it, and I was like, I guess we're doing this. And then taking that initial step to actually, you know, go through it. It's, you know, it's a financial situation, you know, kind of coming back from, you know, when I was on the streets, and then money, you know, situation not being, you know, and then all of a sudden now it's like taking responsibilities and saying, should I do this? Can I do this? Can I afford to do this? So it wasn't just that. It was, you know, financially, it was also like the motivation to be able to just, you know, I want to have fun again. I want to be able to be me again. And it was terrifying. But like I stepped on that ice, and you know, and I remember the first time I stepped out on the ice, basically doing 3-on-3 on half the ice, you know, everything's super fast, and everybody's like, you know, a couple of the guys were just like talking crap, you know, saying, oh, this goalie sucks and blah, 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 blah. And that almost stopped me from like doing it. It's like, no, you know what? I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep getting better.
So not only you giving yourself motivation, the people who could give you review or comments about you also feels you to do better as well.
Yeah, I like to be able to prove people wrong. So.
I know. That's one of the things that I have too. It's just like, you know, being Asian, I always like, as much as I'm not really attached to my background or anything, I am like, I'm born as an Asian, and I always have this little thoughts in my head. I'm like, yeah, nobody's gonna, you know, respect an Asian playing in a very Caucasian kind of sports, right? Like a white, like a Canadian sports or North American sports. It really reminds me of the story of, you know, in NBA you have Jeremy Lin, right? Everybody just think like, oh yeah, despite how good you play, you don't really get the respect that you have. And I think he is one of a good example that I follow, is that like, I don't care who other people think about me. I always have that. I enjoy the sports. I know where I want to be. Like, if you, I don't know how much you know about Jeremy Lin. Like, recent years, he was playing in the CBA, which is the Chinese Basketball Association, which is the top league in China. He's the idol. He's everybody's, you know, money making machine. Like, everybody just think he belongs there, but he doesn't think so, because he knows that deep in his heart, he enjoyed that culture in America, playing in the NBA. Even right now, he doesn't play in the NBA. He play in it's basically AHL equivalent to NHL. He's playing the G League. Like, you can see his face smiling when he's playing there, first playing the CBA. Like, that to me, it is that his purpose, he follow his heart to do something he really like, and despite, you know, it's a good or bad result, like how many points he scored, like he doesn't really care. He just loved to be part of that culture, and that's a mad respect to him, and it influenced me a lot. That's same so cool. In what I'm doing here in hockey.
Yeah, that's so cool.
20 years. Your story. 20 years since your last play. Can you kind of share with us what is the biggest difference between how you played 20 years ago versus now? Like, what is that feeling? Do you feel like it's like a brand new sports now, or it's still the same sports, but it's just played differently?
Yeah, see, when you're younger, you're more flexible and easier to like do stuff without breaking things or dislodging things. But no, it's I've always played sports, but hockey was one of my favorites growing up as a kid. But coming back into it, it's totally relearning everything. Like, I don't think I had skate. Like, I skated maybe a handful of times when I'd go visit my cousins or my grandparents up in Minnesota. Every once in a while, like, they would have ice rinks outside and go, skate. But as far as like organized, like, we had coaches when we were younger, and they showed you what to do. And, cool, that's awesome. You learn, repetition. But coming into this, it's like all I remember was the stuff that we were doing back in the day, which is completely not what they're doing now. So it was like a new sport. Like the basic fundamentals were still there, but as far as applying them to how to do other stuff, like be more efficient in the net, kind of had to come by, trial and error for myself, or like I said, like via YouTube videos. The hardest part about that is you can watch it all day long and then you can try to apply it, but you have no feedback. And the only feedback I'm getting is the feedback I'm getting is the puck going in the net, or I'm stopping it, and that's it. So, okay, cool. That works. Awesome. I'm going to keep doing that. If it doesn't work, okay, let's try something else. So yeah, it's definitely a new sport for me.
Do you find yourself having to unlearn a lot of what you learned before, or you kind of like, oh, it's a good foundation that you have, it's just building on top of it?
It's just building on top of it, because being able to be square up to the puck, coming out from the center and then hitting your angles once they come into the danger zone, and then try to tighten up everything as much as possible. That still stays the same.
Got it. That's good to know. That's good to know, because I know, like, fundamentally, like, technique wise, things has changed a lot, right? You go from like the stand up, the hybrid goalie. At this point, I can't still distinguish exactly what kind of style we have. All I know is there's the butterfly style, and there's like a hybrid. I don't even know what that means. There's the stand up, right? Like, but I'm one of those people who love to talk the mental game more, and the big picture, like how you play with the team. Yeah, I like to talk those things more than technique, because I think technique, everybody can get it from YouTube, right? Like, there's so many people talk about techniques, but I don't think enough people talk about the game in general, like how you see the game, how you work with the team, how you communicate. Like, that's one of the things that I talk a lot in my previous episodes. How do you communicate with your team? Like, do you talk to your G about this? What are some of the things that you do you right now have enough kind of mind thoughts on how you play with your team then, or you're still kind of focusing on your own game right now?
It's a combination of both, because we have one of the best perspectives of on the ice. We was dead center, and we could see how plays unfold. Usually what happens is I'm still working on my own personal game, but as far as being able to see the things that are going on, I usually will be able to communicate, say, hey, this goalie doesn't get up once they go to this side. So, shoot over the shoulder, hit it in the corner, whatever. Okay. So I'm able to see what the other goalies are doing, or, why are you going so far wide to the right? Like, there's an open lane here, but you're going, so far out. So I'm able to pick up on those things, and I'm able to communicate back and forth, with these people, the rest of my team, not these people. But yeah,
I have like, for me, it's like I think the first few years I'm just so shy. I just don't feel like I'm worth to give my team anything, because I'm just so new to the sports. I just felt like, oh, whatever I think, my team has definitely think about it already, or they must have know something better than I do. But what I realized was it's not the case. Sometimes it could be a reinforce of what I see to what they think. And I think the turning point of that is when I have more and more teammates to invite me to be part of the scrum, right? To really talk about the things that we can do better on the next period. And that's when I feel like, oh, cool, I can contribute to this. And it's actually, we can make, like, to me, this like a nothing to lose situation, where if you don't say anything, the worst case is they just don't get what you know. They probably already talk about it. But if you say something, they probably would do something that they never thought about, and that might change the game essentially. So I'm like, at this point, I'm telling myself that no matter what happened, just say something about what you think and what you see, and let your team to make a best decision for them to change around and play differently. So that's kind of my mindset now.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because since we moved up a division, we haven't won any games, and so the communication's getting more comical, I guess you would say, on the
Okay.
ice. Like for example, because we're getting killed. Like we are a 5C team for sure, up in a division that's way
Uh-huh.
faster than we should ever be in. You know, we got
Right.
guys that are better players, but it's like, why are you guys working so hard? Just it was kind of like, just kind of chirping like my own team, like as we're out on the ice, and it kind of just like we're getting killed. It's 0-7. There's nothing we can do about this.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
so
I always think that's a good place to be when you are in a much better level from my perspective. I don't know about
mm,
yourself, but I think that's where a lot of my motivation coming in. It's, oh, now I'm in this league, I better be better. I better be
right,
like so much better. And it kind of pushed me to think what else can I improve on my game
right,
to fit into that level. Honestly, I can't really like you said, I can't really control situation that I can't control, like how my team thinks about the game and all that. But
mm,
I always think there's space for me to improve, and stats doesn't really, a win or lose doesn't really mean anything to me now. All I
right,
think about is how good am I in this game? Am I getting better every game? And do I know what I have to improve on? And I just
right.
work on those things. And
Yeah,
you know what? Once in a while, I still one or two games out of like 10, 20 games I played. That's a win for me. That's a big win for me if
right.
I'm able to steal a game or two, right?
Yeah. See, you have to. The way I've always seen it was like you have to lose games to learn how to win games. Like
Very true.
you have to be able to be, pushed so far down. Okay, well, I need to be better. Like, how am I going to do this? Like, I don't want to sit here the whole time. So you push yourself further and further.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One of the thing that I want to ask you this, I think this is something that I might not be the best person to answer this question or to get to understand this because I was streaming one day. I was just kind of playing games a little bit, and I spin off a conversation with one of the audience how people are judging others when they are going on like a mental therapy. I
Right.
don't quite understand the whole like situation here, but I think in Canada I don't think I see a lot of these here, but maybe that's something that's
Mhm.
happening more unique to a certain area in North America. I don't know, but do you know anything about kind of these kind of situation that people might be going into?
To recap what you said, basically, it's somebody was saying something about how like it's not mental health or how or like it is like.
It's like people being judged of someone going to a therapy.
Oh,
Like I
okay,
don't
okay,
want to
okay,
go
yeah.
to a therapy because like like to
Well, see,
me having mental health is having mental health. That's fine. Like just you go to see a doctor when you're sick. Like that
yeah.
to me
Well,
it's
I mean,
very like
not yeah. For not everything dealing with mental health needs like it's not like you have to go see a doctor, for these things.
mm,
But it's you should like, and if people are too afraid to because people are going to make fun of them.
it's
That's
more making
that's kind
fun.
of
Okay.
it's. I mean, if they're feeling that way, they don't want it to, because a lot of times people with they don't want people with mental health issues don't want to have to like you know expose what they're going through because a lot of time like I've got friends that are bipolar and they're too afraid to say that they're bipolar, like they don't
Right,
want to
right,
have a
right.
stigma on top of them.
Mm,
And I think and a lot of the fear that you get, it's kind of like I'm going to be judged because of this, like
yes. Yes.
men, it's something it's something that goes on in our mindset that is not working right. It's not, either if it was from trauma or if it was something you're born with, there's something there, like something is going on, and you need to be able to discover what's going on with you. And so,
Mm,
like to have that kind of fear, I mean, it's a real fear. It's definitely a real fear.
yeah.
But
What would be one or two things that you would kind of suggest for someone who have a little bit of a hesitation of sharing about how they feel or maybe they don't even know if they have mental health issue. They just felt sad, depressed, right? Like that's kind of me sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, do I have
And
mental health issue?
well, I mean, like, I'm not a doctor, so I can't, I wouldn't be able to like
Yeah,
say anything
fair
like
enough.
that. But from a personal experience, like, if it gets to the point where you can't control it, like, yeah, like we all as human beings, we have emotions and we go through these things. But if it's getting to the point where it's starting to affect your daily life, like some people get, I mean, the younger generation likes to sleep in bed all day because they feel like they got nothing, live for. So it's like, whatever, I'll just play video games all day, which is nothing wrong with playing video games. But like, I mean, it's the mentality of like, because of what's been going on, it's like the younger generation has more, from what I've seen, seems to have more of that depression kind of like, but like that does change from generation to generation. But I think that, as long as, we can work on things, but it never hurts to like ask for help. Like, hey, I don't know if this is what I've been going through. I don't know if this is something that, is serious or not. Like, just, hey, I've been feeling like this. You can go to like your regular doctor and just say, hey, I've been really depressed. This is what's been going on with me. And they'll talk with you, and they'll either, recommend you to like a therapist or something and kind of talk through the things. And it just kind of becomes, something that you pursue. If you're afraid to pursue it, still pursue it. It's something, because something little can become something big. And if it's not something that's taken care of, it can continue to snowball and snowball and snowball, and then all of a sudden you have this big boulder that's over your shoulders. So I suggest.
Yeah. No, those are good. Those are really good advice, and I think it ties to kind of the same thoughts that I have. But I have I'll say a slightly different thoughts about this.
Mm-hmm.
I think mental health, when someone say, oh, I have bipolar, or I'm just gonna name some random thing that I know about mental health, PTSD or whatever. I feel like it's something that it could go two ways. One way is you accept that it's you. Okay, cool. Like, I'm just dealing with it. Versus they use that as a label for themselves, and because of that, they just don't do anything about it. And
Right.
I personally don't see that, oh, you must go to the doctor or you must go to therapy to do this. I don't think it takes a doctor to help someone with mental issues. It's all about who you're exposing yourself to, how you see that disease, and are you actively working on to get out of that situation, and how willing are you speak on behalf of yourself and how you feel about it. That emotion, that when you can speak it out, not thinking, but speak it out, like it make a huge difference.
That's one of the absolute hardest things to do.
I
like
know.
it is one, and this is one of the first few times that I've actually brought this, especially to such a wide, and this is going to be on YouTube and it's going to be out there for the world to see. It's a huge step, and it's definitely like talking about it is, I would say, the first and most important part before, is to be able to talk. And then throughout, if it is something that needs to be addressed, like, through a doctor or whatever, but talking is always the best. And it's to be able to break through that is one of the hardest things, it's, you have to be pretty brave to be able to go on, and kind of tell your life story on stuff. And, I don't have any kind of reserve this time. It's just stuff that, I keep to myself. I have very small amount of people in my life that know what I deal with. And I kept it that way for a long time. But like I was found a couple different groups on Facebook, and I was able to kind of like, you know what, type, and just kind of share. And then it hit me kind of weird because, you know, the responses to it, like, I wasn't expecting to have responses back. I was just kind of telling my story. And then I started getting messages from people. So, you know, when you talk about things, it's hard to open up, especially like a lot of people are afraid to go talk to a therapist or a doctor because it's either embarrassing, they feel that way, or they're just too scared, you know. And that's why a lot of people actually don't go, is because they're too afraid. And
Got it.
yeah,
It's that fear, yeah. Well, I got to say, like, again, I probably say I don't think it's gonna be too much, but I always say I appreciate, you know, you to open up, right? Like, I think, you know, I would never be able to tell exactly how much it means to you to open up and just tell the world about your story. And but what I could tell you is I met so many people who never open up but open up, and now they're so much happier because it almost feel like to them it's a relief, like they finally let go of the emotion that they have been, you know, going inside in their heart, and they just never got a chance to speak it out. And you know what, sometimes it just takes just one chance or two opportunity to speak it out, and all of a sudden everything started sinking, your mind started sinking, you know, the purpose started to sink in, who you are started to sink in. But if you never let out, it would just have, you'll always have the little reserve in your heart, like something is not letting out. And I still remember that moment. Oh, that was hard for me. It's my mom got cancer, like diagnosed cancer like 5 years ago. Was it 5 years ago? 2014. Damn, that was like 7 years ago. Everything went fine until 2017. All of a sudden, one summer, everybody's happy because we were moving into a new place. And it was exactly 1 year into the new place that we have. My dad told me on the side, your mom just got re-diagnosed with cancer again.
Yeah.
And it was already like the last stage. And I was like shocked.
Yeah.
Because my mom looks so healthy. Like my mom is still pretty young. Like she was 60 when she died, and like it was just boom, right? And then the day that she passed away was the day I have a beer league game that night, and I really hesitate if I want to play that night or not, because it was literally just the same day when my mom just seizure and she's not responding anymore. It took, I really never shared this with anyone, but 10 hours almost. She just on the bed, deathbed, like almost, and not responding. We know that we're gonna let it go. Like we're not gonna try to rescue her because it's already agreed on. Like it's something that we agreed on. Like if she go on to a stage like this, we don't want to see her more pain, basically.
Right.
But that night, we won that game, and I cried like I never cried that much, and that moment I would never forgot. And it's, you know, it's like if I recall back to that moment, if I never cried, if I never let it out, I will probably have a very like, I will always have something in my heart that I just can't like let go. So and it's like that inclusion of my team doesn't know what happened. I think it was like, what the hell, like Felix never cried, and it's like it's like what happened, and I was like, yeah, my mom just passed away today, and they're like, oh yeah, sorry about that. And then they gave me the puck of that game, and I still have that.
That's awesome.
It meant to me a lot when you have just a group of people that you feel safe to share. And you know, sometimes you don't even know if that group is safe or not. You just need that like a tree hole, you know. You're just kind of speaking to it, just
Yeah,
let
yeah,
things out, right? And that's exactly what it when I do that.
right.
And luckily, I got a good response, a good someone who really supportive to me, and forever grateful for, like, as much as how unfortunate that was. I have a
Right.
very fortunate moments that I have people who supported me. I have a hockey game that we won, something that I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
happy about.
yeah,
It was a
yeah.
shutout too. I was like, fuck
That's
yeah,
awesome.
like in my heart. But then like I'm
Yeah,
like, talking to my mom on the sky. I'm like, hey, it's you giving me
yeah,
that extra, luck or whatever, right? Whatever you call it.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. I'm so sorry to hear about that. And it's so good that you were able to, that you found, that you felt comfortable with your, teammates to be able to let them, in on it. Um, that's definitely a very, very, I can't even imagine what it'd be like to, lose my parent. You know, I,
Mm.
I've almost lost my mom, um, and stuff too. So, but it kind of brings me back, and this is not about hockey. This is actually about, music stuff. So, kind of on the same aspect, like, we had my old band had a really good friend who
Mm.
was like at every one of our shows that would go play. He was like really, really close to a lot of us in the band, and he ended up committing suicide. And so we put together like a benefit show, and like I was distraught. Like me and the singer were just distraught. And I remember we had this one song that was just written, and it was "New Home," and it's
Mm.
basically talking about like, there's plenty of room in the graveyard. Yard. You'll never be alone. Welcome to your new home. So it's basically like, everybody's there, at the end, at the end of life kind of thing, blah, 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 blah. And we just started bawling on stage. Like the community group, everybody knew. And it was just like, it was one of the most powerful things because it's like everybody in the crowd was like bawling their eyes out. Like everybody on stage was. And it's, to have those unique moments like that, and it's like, to hold on to those, it's like that. It was so powerful and it was so meaningful to me, and I'll never forget those moments.
Yeah, yeah. I always appreciate the challenges, the
Yeah,
bad moments, because that's I found it's not just me, but seeing a lot of like whatever success people, like it's always the shit moments that define them. It's always
right.
the sad moments. Like, to me, I hated to say this, but I would rather have, if someone, their life is really smooth, it's
Mm.
actually they're missing something in their life. They need tough moments.
Yeah,
Everybody need tough moments to really appreciate life, to appreciate who they are, to appreciate the people around them. And I've never been so grateful for my dad before my
mm.
mom passed away. I always just feel my dad just push me all the time, just you know ask me to do something I don't understand why I have to do, and I feel like he's like a stubborn person. It's
Right.
now it's like I think it changed him a lot too. Like,
Yeah,
compared to him, I'm not that much of a deal. I'm like, I'm a son versus he lost his partner. Like, to me,
yeah,
the impact on him is even harder. Seeing how he changes, it's just fascinating, and it takes these kind of really really tough moments for anyone to entirely change the way they think. And I don't know how much you appreciate your history or that, but I encourage
yeah,
anyone who been through really bad mental health issues or bad moments. Yes, it's gonna be really tough to talk about it. It's gonna be really fearful of, like, what happened to you. But I will be the first one to say to anyone who talk about them, you're unique in a way, and there's nothing wrong with half those things. And being unique is actually a good thing.
yeah,
Having these
yeah.
moments is actually
Absolutely.
a good thing. It's
Yeah,
it's nothing wrong with it. And I would never understand people who have really bad mental health issues. I don't know how much they can sink into this, but if I were to, like say one thing, I'm just like, just let it out. Just find some way to say things, and you will feel so much better already.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely something that needs to be done, because like if you don't, like I said, if you don't say anything, if you don't speak up and either ask for help or say, hey, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm dealing with,
Yeah.
and you don't take those steps, you're not gonna find that peace. You're not gonna be able to find any kind of, until you make those steps. And it's like I said, it's like mental health is a huge spectrum. It's huge. It could be this, and everybody deals with this a certain way, and this. But it's all a journey that we all go on. And, to me, like somebody's mental illness doesn't matter what it is. Not mental illness, but like mental health, mental health in itself. That's a totally different topic too. But like the mental health side of stuff, it doesn't matter. It's still all something that somebody is dealing with. It's something that somebody is on their own person that they live with, that's inside them. And the brain, your mind can do horrible things, and you can deceive yourself so easily. You can talk yourself out of the best thing for you. But yeah, I strongly agree that communication, if it's just one person that you can trust, because hey, this is what's been going on. If you can't talk about it, you bottle it up. I've lost a lot of friends because of that. So
Really?
Yeah.
I always said I would rather have 5 friends who really understands me and who accept who I am versus 20 friends who just doesn't care about me.
Right.
So if today you have friends who leave you, that's okay. They just don't understand you, but you just need to find a few friends who really understands you, and that's all it takes.
Yeah. Like even if you don't have those friends, there are communities out there. Like you can be anonymous. There's you could just type in like Google search stuff, for mental health thing, and they have stuff where you can be 100% anonymous and tell them, your problems, and just be able to speak out. And and there's a lot of places that don't judge because of what's going on, which is amazing. With your friends, you never know, but you have these people that are healthcare, workers, mental health, and you can be anonymous and talk to people.
Right. Just 2 quick questions. You don't have to make it long, but I kind of want to have like a good conclusion of today's show. It's, what would be one thing that you would say to those who have suffered from depression or know someone who has suffered from depression, anxiety? What would you say to them? What would be one thing you would suggest them to help?
Just take it day by day. You wake up in the morning and start your day. It's a progression that you have to, continue. You wake up, hey, you're already ahead of the curve. So it's with people with depression, because I still deal with depression. It's, hey, I woke up this morning, I still have a job, I have a roof over my head right now, and I will continue to push and push on from there. So, and tomorrow is not granted to us, so live our life the best we can, day to day.
I love that. I love it. The appreciation. I think appreciation of life, very, very important. And speaking of that, like, what is one thing that you appreciate and always will about the hockey team that you play with? Like, not something that you appreciate about hockey, but the team, or about hockey in general, or about the goalie position.
With my team, I'm just super grateful that everybody's understanding, and that I'm so grateful that, like, even though I'm not the best goalie in the world, that they still come up to the net and say, hey, that was my fault, even though it was totally my fault. and I'm glad to be able to have be able to be a part of a team and be able to, play.
Being part of the team, being part of the community, to me, what I would say to anyone anything about mental health. Like I think mental health is something we can talk about it, but like once you embed into your head, you have a new perspective about it. You just don't talk about mental health, but what you do is be that shining light for other people. I like to use that word, shining light.
Yeah.
Make people feel like you're a unique, you're a confident person. It's influence. How it can influence other to see that, hey, you're not a normal person. You're something who have a purpose in life, and that's what makes you as a unique person. And it will affect others in some way. And I strongly, strongly believe that. And from me starting this show, I know I'm making just a little impact. That's fine, but you know what? When I'm more competent, more confident in what I do, that influence will start to scale up, and I very strongly believe in it.
Yeah, because you never, like I said, you never know who you're gonna reach. You never know.
Yeah. One last question. It's kind of out of the hockey. Is there any music that you're producing right now, or are you kind of going back to that, or any plan for your music career?
I'm hoping once the COVID, like I've been writing a lot, and
okay.
So as far as recording, trying to get that stuff, I'm still trying to figure out. Like we had a little mishap in the beginning, couldn't figure stuff out. I'm a musician, not an engineer, so trying to get all that stuff. But I'm hoping that because I had a band that was going on, and we were in the studio recording, and then COVID kind of hit, and then it's like nobody wanted to do anything, and nothing is coming back from that. So maybe I'm gonna put something out here soon. I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, 100%. I will. I think music is. I told you kind of offline on this, but like, music is one of the best way to express. It's you can connect to a different person in a very different way. So I'm open to any music, even like the heavy metal or whatever. I don't understand it, but I just feel the emotion of it. I just love it, right? But yeah, look forward to that. Like if there's anything that I could help out on promoting or spreading the love, just let me know. I want to be that connector as much as I could. As much as I'm not a networker. Now I'm like shaping myself from an introvert to someone who be more connected, be more outrovert, right? I think that helps me a lot as to make me as a person as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. And I would appreciate that. That's so cool.
For those of you who want to kind of follow up more on mental health, and if you want to kind of be part of a community, be part of something that it's very supportive and no judgment, there's the Asian Goalie community that I built on Discord. If you don't use Discord, that's fine. There's a Facebook group called Lift the Mask. Actually, that's something that kind of told me about this. I never heard about this group, but they have about 800 members in the Facebook group that they Lift the Mask is actually an initiative that was started that talks about mental health for goalies as well. So you can probably search them up in Facebook as well. And if you guys want to talk about it, be part of it, I highly suggest you guys to be participate in that group as well. This show will also be posted on my YouTube channel, The Asian Goalie. Any highlights? Now I'm doing a little bit of a short highlights. So for those people who don't like to go through the whole show, you can see a little highlights that I posted every so often as well. If you have any questions, suggestions, you want to interact with me, with the group alongside with other goalies, join the Asian Goalie community in Discord. Yeah, I can see the link on somewhere on my bio. And for more about the show, next guest, next topic, you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram at the Asian Goalie. So Des, really appreciate that you come in and we talk some really heavy topic, but I love it because I think these are the things that connect with people. Techniques, who cares, right? People cares, but I think it's just so different than the level of connection that we can have when we talk about these, mindset, that kind of thing. So I really appreciate you speak up again. And, for those of you tuning in, give Des a little applause, right? Clap, right? Like really, thankful for you to come here.